Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a COVID-19 update Sunday, April 19th, 10 p.m. Mountain Time 2020. We're bringing you the news you need to know and the know you need to use it. Hundreds of protesters are gathering around the country at, well, let's just say state capitals are building dissent due to their stay-at-home orders, which is in our constitutional rights, by the way. Let's check the numbers. COVID-19 dashboard by the Centers for System Science Engineering at Johns Hopkins showing 758,000 confirmed in the U.S., 40,666 deaths in the U.S. alone. The worldwide numbers are just going to come up here shortly, but total tests conducted in the U.S. approaching 4 million. Which shows that approximately 1/5 of the population has been infected that are tested. Now, total confirmed cases worldwide, only 2.5 million. And based on some statistical analysis coming out and antibody tests, that number is more likely 24 million, potentially even 100 to 240 million. But we'll get to that later in the podcast. Now, the stock market is rising on hopes that a pharma solution to the coronavirus will unveil itself. And I believe that to be true. There are many pharmaceuticals that are not vaccines, for goodness sakes, that are showing great promise, and we will get to that. Now, the race to develop a COVID-19 vaccine thus far includes major drug makers like Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna. But there are small groups around the world all racing to this end. But it's my opinion that we're going to come up with some other solutions prior to the vaccine that will make the vaccine look almost embarrassing. Now, as far as the stock market recovering, well, the Dow futures aren't saying so much right now. Sunday night, after hours trading, we're refreshing it for you. We're going to show you it was down 84 points. The Dow, NASDAQ was also down, and we're going to be looking at this. Okay, so it's readjusting. It's coming back towards neutral. So I don't know how much of a stock market reset we're going to get during the shutdown, and the false up leads little hope to what's being discussed in the market. So there's still a downward trend on the horizon. And as the coronavirus spreads, a drug that once raised the world's hopes has been given a second shot. Paul Cottrell and I talked about Remdesivir 3 months ago. And it's back in the news. Now, the only problem is that a congressman is now calling for an SEC investigation into a leak about the possible coronavirus drug. That drug is Remdesivir, and I just repeated it again. Now, Gilead's stock popped 8% after a report that said the coronavirus drug trial showed encouraging early results was leaked, probably by Gilead. Why wouldn't they? Early peek at data on Gilead coronavirus drugs suggests patients are responding to the treatment. And what I mean by that is that all of them, except for one, responded to the Remdesivir. The University of Chicago Medicine recruited 125 people with COVID-19 into Gilead's 2 phase 3 clinical trials. Of those, 113 had severe disease, and all the patients have been treated with Remdesivir. They all recovered within 4 days. Most of them, yeah. That's pretty damn encouraging, even if it is, well, whatever that word they use, Now, we don't want to claim any cures or anything here. We're just claiming the facts. And the facts is that when they gave Remdesivir to a group of highly infectious people that would probably be intubated, none of them went on the tube, and they all walked out in 4 days. That's way different than dying. So that is quite encouraging. Now, this has been hitting the headlines for the last 48 hours. Hours of powers. Recovery from the coronavirus may not confer immunity, warn experts. Now, I wish I had these experts here online because they would have a word to say for what I have to say. Because the people that are testing positive for a second time are people that are asymptomatic. They're not even sick, but they're not telling you that. As if that you could be reinfected and re-die after you've already died. Do you see how sick this is? It's almost like every single country in the Northern Hemisphere reporting that they're warming twice as fast as the rest of the world. When if you do a Google search, you can find every single country is warming twice as fast as the rest of the world. That means the rest of the world is warming twice as fast as the rest of the world. So is the recovery from coronavirus actually a warning, or is it actually just the building of fear? Because what has been determined from the people that are being tested positive is that they're asymptomatic. So who cares? If I'm not sick and I test positive, do I have anything to worry about except killing grandma, perhaps? So there's lots of things to be discovered as we uncover the lies before our very eyes in our very lives. Now, clearly, the antibody test is seen as the key to reopening the country, but it does not yet deliver. And I don't know if you guys have searched the facts about the antibody test or anything like that, but the information coming in from the testing of these is pathetic. The majority of the tests, 90% of the antibody tests, are coming from multiple locations in China. Now, are you kidding me? In recent weeks, the United States has seen the first rollout of blood tests for coronavirus antibodies, widely heralded as crucial tools to assess the reach of the pandemic in the United States, restart the economy, and reintegrate society. But for all their promise, the tests intended to signal whether people may have built immunity to the virus are already raising alarms. Now, officials fear the efforts may prove as problematic as the earlier launch of diagnostic testings, which was a complete failure, and criticized for a tragically slow and rigid oversight of those tests months ago. The federal government is now faulted by public health officials and scientists for greenlighting the antibody test too quickly. And what does that mean? It means that the majority of these tests, the FDA has allowed 90 companies, mainly based in China, where the CCP virus originated, to sell the tests that have not gotten any government vetting. How sick is this? This is the USA you live in. We can't make a thing here. It's pathetic. And so 90 companies in China are now making the tests to find out how safe we are. But the agency has since warned that some of those businesses are making false claims about their products. Health officials, like their counterparts overseas, have found others deeply flawed. So, what's going on? Tests of frankly dubious quality have flooded the American market. People are now selling these antibody tests for as much as $79, which is not more than a pinprick and a litmus strip. And they paid pennies on the dollar for them. So you're being gouged. And look out for this. Doctors claiming that you can get tests for immunity for COVID-19, charging you $79, are using kits from China that may be testing for nothing more than pH, in my opinion. So, as the federal guidance that does not exist is so confusing that the healthcare providers are administering tests that are absolutely unconfirmable, these numbers are shite. And the numbers moving forward to opening up the country are shite as well. The only good news on the horizon is that this is not a pandemic and it was blown way out of proportion. Now, genetic tracing barcode is rapidly revealing COVID-19's journey and evolution. So now we finally get to exhale and actually talk science. I don't know how long it's been. It's been months. And we've been reeling over the fact that we can't even accurately test. And now we're going to reopen the country without accurate antibody tests. You know why that's happening? Because they know it's a fraud. Characterization, geographical, and temporal dynamics of novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, using informative subtype markers, showed a gradual. What it showed was that this virus has been mutating consistently month after month, and there is no single strain. So the people that are using this information to make uh, a vaccine are not going to cure this part of the virus, which is now active. So do not take the vaccine. These people do not know what they're talking about. And this is just the cold. It's a novel coronavirus cold that could have been bioengineered and be more virulent than most other colds. But once we all get it, the facts are in. And wait till you hear some of the breaking information I'm about to share with you in the second half of this podcast. Why are some COVID-19 patients asymptomatic? Well, there's multiple ideas, not just two: inverse, universe, useless, sharticle. I hope you don't pay to get this, but I digress. According to this sharticle, there's only two ideas on why people are asymptomatic. I assure you there are dozens. But the point is that the reason people are asymptomatic is that this disease is not as deadly as they purport it to be. Period. Stanford's study suggests coronavirus is more widespread than thought. What does that mean for you and me? It means that a Stanford antibody study estimated that COVID-19 infected up to 85 times more people than is being reported to you by Johns Hopkins or anyone else. So that means that if there's 2 million affected in the United States, multiply that by 85. That's 170 million. With a death toll similar to the flu. And many of the people on that death toll list probably dying of natural causes because they're trying to pad the numbers. I hope I'm wrong. No, I hope I'm right. I hope you're wrong. COVID-19 antibody sero prevalence in Santa Clara County says that 50 to 80 times more people are actually infected, which means the death toll is very low and that shutting down the economy is going to kill more people than the actual disease. Now, the CDC is reviewing stunning universal testing results from a Boston homeless shelter because weeks ago, when this was just taking hold, places where outbreaks were occurring, like old age homes and homeless shelters, were given tests, and the results were stunning. We're going to reveal them right here. Shocking report shows that half of the homeless at a Boston shelter had tested positive for COVID-19. Now, here's the kicker. Not a single one of them had any symptoms. Half of the homeless population. And now remember, communities of color are suffering the most. These are people that only eat the cheapest foods because there's food deserts in these communities, are dying in the highest numbers. Now, where do you go from the lowest income communities to the next community? That would be the homeless community. So the homeless community is actually infected but not dying or showing symptoms. I wonder what's causing the deaths. The people that just have just enough money to buy all the processed foods are dying. But the homeless people that can't afford processed foods and probably get handouts and better food than poor people are actually surviving from the disease. This is very interesting. The fact that not a single person in the homeless facility that tested positive was sick should sicken you. And the fact that this lie has been, well, anyway, it's boom time. I hope you got something out of the video. We want you all to be safe because, well, we love you. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. When they're testing the most vulnerable people in homeless shelters, and half of them have the disease, and none of them are in the hospital, you should start to question the narrative. What's going on? Demand answers. And the first thing you should demand is the opening of the economy. You know how many people I know have COVID-19? Yeah, same as you. Nobody. Be safe. We love you. That's a boo. Oh, I had the flu too once.